All right. Welcome, everybody.
Stick them up.
Calling all cars. Calling all cars. The newest episode of Movie Club is in. Yeah, see?
I loved Calling All Cars. I played that all the time.
Yeah, me too.
Easily favorite early PS3 game.
We're watching gangster movies today, see? You know, nobody in this movie talked like this.
I was
sadly.
just going to say, I'm already marked down on the movie. Like, what's going on, guys?
The one thing that they were missing in today's film, which was 1967, Bonnie and Clyde. Did I get the year right? 1967?
You did.
1967.
Yep.
We watched it. Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway. It's a gangster film.
Yeah, it is. Have you seen this movie before, Derek?
I've seen this movie before, yeah. But I realized I don't really remember much of this movie.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's not much to remember, to be honest. We'll talk about it, but I wasn't, you know, it's kind of, it's more of a vibe than a story.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I feel like there were scenes that I remembered. There were parts that I remembered, but, you know, where it was all going, I didn't know.
In doing research for this episode of Movie Club, it was interesting to see, like, they just made up a lot of shit for this movie. Characters didn't exist. You know, they just made a lot of stuff up. That's just to do for, I guess, most movies. But it's, like, interesting because, like, I watched this the first time thinking, oh, that's the story of Bonnie and Clyde. Crazy. And then, like, now after researching, like, that wasn't the story of Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay. So you're talking about based on the real story.
I thought
they made
like,
a lot of shit up. Okay.
Yeah. I thought, like, this was, like, not 1-to-1, but close. Yeah. It was not. It was not.
No, big criticism of this movie was that it was not historically accurate.
Oh.
And I think this movie was kind of panned when it was first released. You know, here we are doing Movie Club, a podcast where we review movies, and we watch movies that are really old. A lot of people have already seen these movies, so I feel like we owe it to ourselves to kind of do a little research about these movies, and I found out a lot of interesting facts about Bonnie and Clyde that I didn't know going in.
Yeah.
Some people say this movie is one of the most significant, groundbreaking, genre-changing films of all time.
I had heard that.
That's
yes.
interesting.
And yeah, what does that mean? I don't know. I guess, you know, it came out in the 60s, and this was one of the first movies that used squibs.
Now that's
I
cool.
found out.
Yeah. Because that shit looked like.
It looked good.
Yeah, it actually for the time.
It looked good, yeah. And it was one of the first movies to do a comedy gangster film, which that's like one of the most popular kinds of movies today.
Yeah.
You see movies like Fargo and Pulp Fiction and all kinds of other movies that are funny movies about criminals, and you kind of are rooting for the criminals.
Rooting for the criminals.
Yeah, this movie is credited with inventing that genre.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And yeah, it's a really violent movie.
Yeah.
Which
I was surprised. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, and I guess it didn't even occur to me, too, when I was watching it, but they do shoot people, like, point blank in the face.
Yeah. That shocked me. It really
see
did.
People get, like, machine gunned, covered in, like, bullets, and, yeah, I could see how that was not a regular thing in 1967, how that could, like, affect people in a way.
They also made it look like it was older. They made it seem like a movie from the 30s, even though it was shot in 1967. So when you see the violence, I was extra surprised, I guess, you know, because it was like, it was so graphic.
Yeah. And the movie takes place in the year 1934, which is when Bonnie and Clyde, the real life Bonnie and Clyde, were, you know, waging their crime spree. And can we spoil what happened to the real life Bonnie and Clyde?
I think everyone knows. I'm assuming you know.
In case you don't know, these two gangsters from the 30s are dead. And they died in the 30s. They died in 1934 when they were gunned down by the police.
Yeah.
So this movie takes place in that year, but it was made in the 60s, and it's, again, one of the first movies to kind of make fun of the Great Depression. And kind of make the
look at it through a different lens.
Or make the Depression look fun, because it certainly feels like these characters are having a good time.
It did. I mean, I wish I was in the Great Depression now.
Yeah, well, I feel like the Coen brothers are really influenced by this movie.
Yes.
Because Fargo is a funny gangster film, kind of like Bonnie and Clyde. And then there's movies like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which is, you know, a funny movie about being in the South in the Depression and goofing off and having these silly characters. So, yeah. this, as it turns out, is an influential movie.
I was going to say Coen Brothers, and also, honestly, I think Martin Scorsese took a lot from this as well, with the concept of like crime doubling down on not paying. You know what I mean? Like shit just keeps stacking up.
Yeah, getting worse and worse and worse. Yeah,
and it kind of becoming almost comical how bad it's getting, and whatever. I could see a lot of things kind of springboarding from this. It's also interesting too. Like this was 1967, and I remember. It's just an interesting time for genres kind of having these transformations because, yeah, like the crime thing here, but also like in 68 was 2001 A Space Odyssey, and you read everywhere about how like kind of the reverse. It's like sci-fi was always kind of silly, like, oh, spaceman, blah. And then that was the first one where it was like, yo, this is like serious vision of the future, like, you know what I mean? It was just, I feel like late 60s, you had a lot of that kind of subversing, what
like
it's supposed to be kind of thing.
And just in general, in the late 60s was changing.
Was just
like,
fucking upturned.
We were putting people on the moon. It was like all this shit was happening, and like everything was changing so fast in these like last 3 years.
Stuff with race happening, stuff with everything was kind of like subverted, like the flip the table.
Too? Was that Woodstock?
What year was?
I thought it was 69, but I could be wrong. I could be way off.
Because they did 99.
Yeah, it was 69.
99 was the best one though, so that's really kind of Anyway.
Yeah. So what made you pick Bonnie and Clyde? This is Sean's pick, by the way.
Truthfully, sometimes I said before, I watched this movie on an airplane, but it was like, I didn't really, I was on a fucking plane. I wasn't paying attention. I was getting my peanuts from this, the flight attendant. I don't know. And then sometimes I just feel like looking at an older movie for this. So I go to the HBO Max section and I find the Turner Classic Movies, and I just kind of scroll through to one that catches my fancy. And that's what I did with this. So it was just kind of random.
Good you did that now rather than tomorrow, because all those old movies will probably be gone by tomorrow.
Why?
Because HBO Max is taking down about 80 things a day now.
Oh fuck!
They're in the news every day for just
for taking these out. Oh well, then I'm glad I picked it. But anyways, honestly, when I first watched it on the plane, I was surprised that like it starts off with like Faye Dunaway, who is like gorgeous and very pretty. I don't know if you guys know this.
Dude,
very pretty.
Why did no one ever? Faye Dunaway was a babe. Like, what? Who kept that info from me?
Yeah, right.
The movie started, and I was like, "When is Faye Dunaway in this movie? What?" It's like everything you knew was wrong.
Yeah, she starts off and she's not wearing a shirt.
That happened to me with. Sorry to derail. That happened to me with fucking Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. When I saw an old James Bond movie, I'm like, "Who is with him in the?" Oh, Dr. Quinn. Oh no, she's a babe in that movie, dude. Like what? Everything I know is wrong.
Was that Faye Dunaway? Who played Dr. Quinn?
Oh no, that was what's
Jane
her
Seymour.
name? Jane Seymour.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know how I knew that. Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so it started off. I was like, oh, she's shirtless. You don't see anything, but still very risque.
I saw something. I looked.
You saw? You found? Okay.
Yeah, frame by frame.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, the movie is produced by Warren Beatty, who stars in it as Clyde. Barrow. Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker. Those are the names of the two criminals. And he was the producer, so he was in charge of kind of putting the movie together. Originally, he wasn't going to be in this movie. And his sister was going to be in the movie. Did you hear about this?
I did hear about that, but it was kind of confusing.
And his sister, I didn't know this. I have to, she's famous. Shirley MacLaine.
Shirley
MacLaine is Warren Beatty's sister.
Okay, I had heard that before. I had heard that before. Yeah.
Well, Shirley, why don't you go by Shirley Beatty? What's with all the confusion?
Yeah.
It's like Emilio Estevez isn't
and Martin Sheen
and Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not gonna go with your name. I'm doing my own shit.
But then Warren was like, I don't know, this movie looks pretty good. Maybe I'll be in the movie. But then he was like, it's all these awkward sex scenes. Let's get my sister out of here. And this is actually what happened.
Yes.
And so he kicked his sister out of this movie. And by the way, he like made a fortune on this movie.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this. I had heard about.
So not only did he kick his sister out of this movie becomes one of the most influential movies of all time. And he becomes filthy rich off of it. Talk about screwing over your sister. How could Shirley ever forgive him after that?
I also read that his, at the time, girlfriend, who was Natalie Wood, was supposed to be Bonnie. And I forget why, but he didn't give her the part, or they broke up, and she didn't get the part. And so she attempted suicide after she didn't get this
Oh.
part, and really went into a depression spiral after that, which is
Jesus.
I know.
He brought this episode down.
Dang.
Crazy.
Well,
Celebrities, they're just like us. Anyways, what were you gonna say?
what I was gonna say is, but with him producing the movie, they had such little faith in the film, like they were like not anticipating it being a big hit. It was that classic thing where it's like, well, yeah, I don't know if they can pay me that much. He worked it out. Just give me 40% of the gross.
40%.
And they were like, on this piece of shit, fine. They just said it was one of the biggest production blunders ever, where they had that little faith. They were like, fine, that's unheard of, but like we're not gonna make shit. So fine, 40%, and it fucking made $70 million back then.
Wow.
Back then, like that's pretty incredible. So
40% of 70 million. Let me do the mental math.
well, you got like what, 30 million?
It's a
give or
lot.
take?
It's a lot. I don't know how much it was.
30 million then in the 60s?
I heard he made $6 million off of this movie.
Oh, okay.
Personally, so
yeah.
not a bad payday.
But again, considering that was back then, dude, because I'll take that now. I'll be honest. Like I'd be stoked with that now.
So Warren Beatty wanted to find a French New Wave director. He was really set on bringing that to America, and this is one of the first American movies to have the French New Wave style. So,
cool.
Suck it, Wes Anderson.
You got
Wes.
Yeah, you thought you were first. You
And yeah, you fuck. Deal with it. He went to a director from a movie we've previously watched on Movie Club, Francois Truffaut, who directed The 400 Blows.
Oh, the blows are back.
Yeah. So, Sean, you famously hated The 400 Blows.
Did I hate it? I think I did.
But Francois Truffaut made a ton of notes on this movie, and they say he is directly responsible for some of the most iconic parts. So
I didn't say that he was bad directing in the 400 Blows. I just didn't get what was happening.
That whole opening scene with Bonnie being naked, that was his creation.
Hell yeah. That was my favorite part of the whole movie.
His director
Very
rules.
French.
All right, I'm in. Funny story. Sean told me the other day because I don't think you hated it. It was just
The
maybe
400
you hated
Blows?
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
But Sean did tell me the other day his least favorite Movie Club movie, and it was another French film. I'm curious if anybody can guess what that was.
Yeah, Babe, Pig in the City.
No, because with that, we gave it a low score, but we had so many stories, and we were showing people scenes, like, watch this fucking thing with the...
so it's Delicatessen.
It was Delicatessen!
Absolutely, you got it.
That was determined to
I'm
be his
glad
least
your
favorite.
3 least favorite movies are Derek picks.
Well, what was my other least favorite movie?
Sorry, for the 400
Oh,
Blows
that
and
wasn't
Babe,
that.
Pig in the City.
I wouldn't give 400 Blows that low of a score.
No, no.
That was a competent, good movie. I just didn't care for it that much.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Babe, Pig in the City and Delicatessen like offended me.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Babe, Pig in the City was a fucking masterpiece.
It was
By the guy who did Mad Max.
Don't like Mad Max.
We'll see. There you go.
You've just disqualified your own opinion.
You
And
just got George Miller stands coming after you.
Delicatessen was a surreal, dark fantasy
Yeah.
that was beautiful.
Yeah.
You just don't like French films. I think you have a problem with French people.
I think.
Sean, you don't appreciate the beauty of the guy sitting in the wet room with a bunch of snails around him. You don't appreciate the
Art. Hello.
I actually did like that shot.
Expand your horizons. Anyways, we're talking about Bonnie and Clyde.
Sorry.
Well, let's get into it. So we're going to spoil all of Bonnie and Clyde here. If you haven't watched it, check it out. It's pretty good. The movie opens famously, like we just said, with Bonnie, who is being very sexy in a French New Wave style. She's in her room, and there's all this imagery that suggests that she's trapped. She's like in a bird cage, standing in front of a bird cage. She's like framed up in the bars of her bed. She looks out the window and she sees Clyde Barrow checking out her mom's car, like peeking in the open window, and she kind of accuses him of stealing the car. But she also tells him, like, wait right there, and she comes down and, like, they go on a walk and they start flirting. And pretty immediately, within, like, 5 minutes, they're, like, pretty much in love.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, like, yeah, I've been to jail, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, prove it. And he has a gun. And she's like, I bet you don't even know how to use that thing. And he goes in, he like robs the liquor store. I think I paused it. This is like at the 8-minute mark. He robs a liquor store.
Yeah.
They steal a car. They run away. They're having a good time. She's all over him. She's very turned on by the crime.
Who wouldn't be?
Right. And they go to a field to, do what people do after they rob liquor stores, do a little canoodling.
Yeah.
And he has sexual problems, which is a reoccurring theme throughout the movie. And it's something that people who are smarter than me can analyze all they want. But as the movie goes on, here we are like 10 minutes into the movie, and now they start fighting with each other.
That was interesting.
And I was like, you just met, and then you robbed a liquor store, and now you're like, Bonnie, I don't know if I could ever be with a woman like you. You got to trust me. All this stuff. I'm not some hot young lover boy. If that's all you want, you can get on out of here. It was very dramatic. But, I didn't hate it. I guess it was just...
I just felt like that I was missing a couple scenes. Or they made it... It seemed to me like weeks had passed, but really in the movie, it's like, well, this is just one afternoon that she happened to look out her window. And
Hell of an afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. I chalked it up to like all killer, no filler. They're just like, okay, you meet, you do a little crime, you fight. This is what it's like to be young and in love.
I did look up to see, like, was Clyde Barrow, like, was he gay or was he impotent or what is the story here? And people don't really know. Some historians think that he was like bisexual and he and Bonnie would have like threesomes all the time, is what people have theorized.
Wow, you got really kinky with your research.
Well, I was just wondering, like, well, like, was he gay in real life? Like, what is this, But no, I guess maybe I don't know. No one really knows.
Is that a real thing? He couldn't have sex or something?
No, I think they didn't want to.
Or is that just made up?
Warren Beatty. I think Warren Beatty didn't want to film all these sex scenes, and so he just, instead of being too awkward, so he just made him impotent instead.
Well, his girlfriend had already left him. I don't know. What's the deal?
I don't know what to tell you.
Isn't it funny
Maybe Warren Beatty's impotent.
Yeah, you never know.
Whoa.
Isn't it funny though?
News.
You hear about stuff like that where maybe he didn't want to film that. Or I remember, I've still never seen one of the only Spielberg movies I've never seen. I never saw The Color Purple.
I haven't seen it either.
The Color Purple. Can't talk.
Yeah.
But I know that there is sort of in the book. There's a gay There's two women have a relationship in the book or something like that, and I think he cut their sex scene or something like that. He cut it out of the movie, and people were like, "That was kind of a critical thing." And then he never went into it. And then only recently he was like, "I was shy." Like, I was like nervous about filming that, so I cut it. That was it. Like that was, you know what I mean? Like he didn't have this artistic reason. It was just like I was still like a young filmmaker, and I was fucking nervous about that, and I cut it.
Wow,
isn't
Steven,
that funny?
You got to make amends. Okay,
yeah.
You're older now. You're braver now.
Yeah.
Give us the sex scene.
Color Purple 2.
Color, yeah.
Call all the same actresses back up and be like, hey, unfinished business.
We can deep fake it. We can do CGI. We can do whatever. Anyways, back to Bonnie and Clyde.
Back to Bonnie.
Yeah.
We'll have to watch The Color Purple someday. Now
I really want to. I never got to.
So Bonnie and Clyde are, in a rip-roaring romance out the gate, 10 minutes in. And then they meet this mechanic, this young guy, CW.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this character. They meet him at a gas station. And what did you think of their meeting with this
It was
young
very
mechanic?
similar to me of Clyde and Bonnie meeting, where it was just like happenstance. They happen to get gas. They meet this person. And now this is like, oh, he's one of them instantly.
Yeah.
And it's like he's just, I guess Clyde's so charming that he can just get anyone to leave their life in a second and just go on crime sprees with him. I'm not sure what that was really saying.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of the spirit of them was intoxicating. I feel like you kind of see that through the movie. It's kind of like people you don't expect to cling to them kind of do.
It was interesting because I saw a lot of reviews of the movie from the time, from the 60s, and a lot of critics didn't like the movie because they felt like the characters were, quote, moronic. And multiple reviews said that the characters were moronic.
Huh.
Which was interesting because I never thought that watching this movie, and it almost made me think about how times have changed. And I don't think these characters are morons. They're kind of like happy-go-lucky, but maybe that was the definition of a moron in 1967.
Simple. Yeah.
But yeah, throughout the movies, there's kind of this happy-go-lucky charm that these characters have where they don't take life too seriously. They don't think too hard about stuff. They kind of tell this CW character, we rob banks. And he kind of like starts giggling like a little,
Yeah, it is
like
weird.
a little kid, and just kind of like punch in the, come come on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, acting like that. And I don't know.
I don't think so I think the C.W. Moss wasn't a real person.
Really?
He
was.
I think he was representing a couple people.
Okay.
Like I think he was representing W.D. Jones and Henry Methvin. So I think they kind of made this character like
Yeah.
combined,
Composite character.
Yeah.
kinda something like that.
It's always funny when you hear about that from a movie. Oh, they actually did whatever. The greatest thing I've ever seen is when Chernobyl, the series on HBO, did that, and up front, like they straight up put a thing in the credits that was like, this woman, I forget what her name was, is replacing 5 people on the math team. Like they didn't hide that at all.
Yeah.
It was like it was like, I don't know. I kind of appreciated that.
Yeah.
Why didn't this movie do it?
Yeah.
Well, this
front.
movie's not historically accurate at all. In fact, this movie, you know, Bonnie and Clyde murdered a bunch of people. That's not portrayed in this movie. The people who they do murder, it's always like, oh, I didn't mean to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made me do that.
Yeah,
Yeah. They didn't want you to like not
That's
like
not
them,
how it
I
goes
guess.
down. Yeah, they wanted to make it really likable.
Yeah.
It's actually really interesting because early on in the movie, Bonnie and Clyde, before they meet CW, they're at a house and Clyde is teaching her how to use a gun.
Yeah.
And the owner of the house comes up and they get scared and almost like they're going to shoot him. He's like, no, take it easy, take it easy. Like, I don't care. Do whatever you want. And there's this whole scene about how he doesn't have the house anymore because it's the Depression and the bank took the house away. And then they start shooting. They're like, check this out. And they shoot the foreclosed sign with the gun, and then they give the gun to the former owner, and he shoots the house. And then he has kind of like a farmhand come over, a guy named Davis who works the land, and he has Davis shoot the house too.
Yeah.
And then they kind of tell him like, hey, we rob banks. And then it cuts to a bank robbery. And it was just this strange like moment where early on in the movie, they set Bonnie and Clyde up to be these folk heroes.
Kind of, yeah.
Where like, hey, America has been fucked by these big banks and nobody can do anything about it.
Yeah.
But Bonnie and Clyde ain't gonna take that shit.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
really are rooting for them to rob everyone.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you see a cop like, oh, these fucking cops. Leave Bonnie and Clyde alone. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
whatever.
And they go to the bank, and there's a scene where they're robbing the bank, and there's a guy standing by a counter with some
Yeah,
money
yeah.
on. They go, "Is that your money or the bank's?" He goes, "That's mine." And he's like, "All right, you keep that. We're taking the bank's money."
Yeah.
And then that guy's in the interview like, "I don't know, Bonnie and Clyde did right by me."
yeah, I love him.
So yeah, the movie definitely glorifies these two, and it's kind of interesting because at the time, the critics really shit all over this movie. They're
Yeah.
like, the characters are stupid. They're making Bonnie and Clyde look cool.
Yeah, glorifying.
It was not that far. It would be as if there were these criminals in 1988. Like, imagine, this is going to be way worse, but like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was a serial killer who was active in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then today they made a movie about him, which makes him look really goofy and
Yeah.
having fun.
I did have that thought because this was made, about 30 years after Bonnie and Clyde.
Exactly.
And I did think there were definitely living relatives of the people that Bonnie and Clyde murdered who saw this
Yeah.
movie. And it's like,
Yeah.
but like they make him look fucking badass, but like I lost my dad for no reason.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's
Like-
far enough for us that this is like, come on, it's like this is ancient history.
Yeah,
but
but
yeah,
like,
I could see. Man,
yeah.
maybe if that was
Family
that
members
close.
were probably like, what the fuck?
To that note, there's multiple characters of the gang who show up. Clyde's brother, played by Gene Hackman.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in this.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like early Gene Hackman movie.
Always loved Gene
CW, the mechanic who we already talked about. And then this woman, Gene Hackman's wife, what was her name? Estelle?
Estelle, but Estelle has a real name, but she is Blanche in the movie.
Blanche, okay.
Yeah.
Blanche is portrayed in the movie as like she's screaming. She's kind of like comic relief.
Yeah.
I guess the real Blanche was still alive when this movie came out, and she hated this movie.
Oh, no shit.
And there's a quote that I read where she's like, They made me look like a screaming horse's ass. was her review of this
She
movie.
did look bad.
Yeah, she looked really bad. She kind of sells out the whole gang.
Yeah. It's because of her screaming that they all get shot up. Like,
Yeah.
they don't get killed in this moment, but like, yeah, it gets really bad because of her.
Yeah, so early on in the movie, we kind of set up, they do a little bank robbing. They establish, like, we rob banks. We're actually the good guys. Then we meet the other gang members, Gene Hackman, Blanche, and then they're all hanging out. And it's like, don't tell Blanche we rob banks, don't do anything bad. And then, like, these cops just show up outside their house, and a shootout starts, and it kind of is this weird, like, action-packed / comedy / thriller dark shootout, which I think is why this movie is kind of so famous for scenes like this.
Yeah.
Warren Beatty is like John Woo, doing John Woo dual wielding shit.
Yeah.
But then Blanche is like screaming and running around
Like a spatula or something?
Yeah, like literally it reminds me of the Three Stooges. It's so like slapsticky the way she has her hands in the air.
But it's still scary. That whole like it walks that line actually kind of well.
Yeah, and the gang has to run out of the house, and they're shooting cops as they go, and ramming the cop cars out of the way. And it's like, oh my god, this is so life and death. And then they like swoop into Blanche, and they like sweep her in the car and drive off. Yeah. All this stuff is happening, and then from that point, like they're just a gang going on adventures for the second half of the movie.
Yeah. And then right after that is when they find this cop, right? Like this cop finds them. There's a lot of things so many things happened in this movie that I kept trying to research, and I honestly ran out of time. Because it's like there's just so many fucking things in this movie that like I want to know.
Yeah, there's this famous picture of Bonnie where she's posing with a gun and a cigar, and they have a scene where they recreate. The taking of that picture, and then they insert this scene with the cop. The cop's family, by the way, sued the people who made this movie.
Oh, really?
No shit.
Because they're like, that shit did not happen.
Whoa.
Fuck you.
Oh, man.
They're like,
wow.
So there's a officer character in the movie.
Yeah.
And his family
go ahead.
basically said he was one of the most well-respected Texas lawmen who came out of retirement by special request of the United States government to track down Bonnie and Clyde.
Whoa.
And this scene that you put in the movie embarrasses him, makes him look like a fucking idiot, and it never happened, and fuck you, and we're suing you.
Wow.
They settled out of court.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
And what happens in the scene is this Texas lawman finds the gang when they're pulled over on the side of the road, and he goes and he sneaks up on them with a gun like he's going to take him out.
Yeah.
But Clyde gets the jump on him and basically holds him at gunpoint, takes his gun, and they're debating like, what should we do? Should we kill him? What should we do? And Bonnie's like, let's take pictures with him. Let's like show the whole world that we're like having fun.
Yeah.
And they pose with him, and she like kisses him, and he spits in her face, and then Clyde beats him up, and they handcuff him, and they put him on a boat, and they push him out into the lake, and they're like, fuck you, lawman, deal with that, you dumb piece of shit. Like really making him look
terrible.
It's
terrible.
bad.
Yeah.
That's so. I had no idea there was a lawsuit around that.
With his like mustache, like like the classic Texas mustache.
Yeah.
And then like she's like brushing it with the gun, and he's like getting all scared.
Yeah.
Oh.
He doesn't say a word.
No.
That's just getting funnier and funnier.
Yeah.
No.
The character, it would, it's something. It's one thing if they just write him off, but that character ends up coming back and getting revenge later in the movie, and that's a real life scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we can. Where's the movie turn? I think for me, it was the scene where they visit Bonnie's mom.
Yeah, that's weird, right? Like for me, it was like Bonnie gets really upset. All of a sudden she disappears and says, "I want to go find my mom." Like in the movie world, as far as you know, her mom was in the house and Bonnie just left one day, and never came back, and that's it. Like who knows what really happened? So then, Clyde's like, "Okay, you want to see your mom? We'll go see your mom." And then it cuts to this like weird family reunion, which I read that they shot through a window screen to make it look different than the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
Make it look like removed and far away.
Yeah, kind of like weird looking.
Okay,
yeah, it's
I was
all
wondering
French
how they
New
did
Wave
that.
shit. They're getting fucking weird with it.
And it was kind of a weird grain to it. This looks like bizarre. Yeah. And there was like weird music and like you see kids playing. I guess what happened in real life was they were filming this scene in the middle of fucking nowhere, and like people who lived around started coming up and like checking out the filming, and they just kept putting them in the shots because they're like, we need TV people.
Yeah, and they visit Bonnie's mom, and she kind of has been reading about them in the newspaper. She knows what's going on, and they're like, You're living a dangerous life, basically, is what she tells him. And they keep telling her, like, oh, it's just temporary. You know, we're going to settle down. We're going to beat these cops. We're going to beat these charges, take this money. We're going to settle down right next to you. And the whole time they've kind of been portraying this lady like she's just some nice little old lady. And she kind of tells him, like, don't settle down next to me, because if you do that, you're going to die. Like, you have to keep running forever. And she's like, yeah, what do I know? I'm just a dumb little old lady, right? But the scene kind of has this tone of Bonnie's mom is basically telling her, like, you're fucked. Like, and I know it. And you think you can come back to live with me and go back to your old life? No. You're a criminal. You've killed police officers. Like, this only ends one way. As many gangster movies do. This is like how they all go.
Yeah, they all know it. Did we mention, I think we maybe skipped the part when they kidnapped Gene Wilder and his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which,
well, I think that happens right around here.
I think it does, which is such a good scene, and I did not realize that was Gene Wilder's first movie role.
Yeah, I never knew that. That was as soon as he popped up, he has always been one of my all-time favorite actors. Anytime he's on screen, I'm just like, all right, I'm in. Yeah. And that was an unexpected treat. Because he's always funny. He's always been funny in that subtle, weird way that he is, and
he's got star power.
Yeah, he definitely does.
He's got what it takes.
Because he steals the show when he's on camera, and I can't even really tell you why.
It's all these little decisions that. What's brilliant about Gene Wilder? He reminds me of Jim Carrey, and every once in a generation, you get somebody who is just so confident in their comedy that they can be funny when they're not supposed to be, and it works.
Yeah.
And Gene Wilder is making out with a girl, and they notice that his car is getting stolen, and he's like, that's my car. That's my car, in a very Gene Wilder way. And he just starts walking towards the car, and he like walks out a window and just falls on the grass, but then just picks himself up and keeps going.
Yeah.
And it's such a nothing moment, but I'm watching it just being like, that's classic Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
Nobody else could pull off falling out of this window like Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
But he can do it because he's a fucking genius.
He had underrated physical comedy. He like, you don't think of him as big physical comedian, but he would do these little things that were so funny. I mean, his intro in Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
He was the one that came up with
it's the same bit. He
falling down the thing, and then I mean, that was his concept.
It's the same kind of fall, actually.
Yeah.
But
so Gene Wilder's the master of the introductory fall.
When he is they're chasing Bonnie and Clyde, and then she says, the girlfriend says, what if they have guns? It's like, stop, turn around, whatever. And then then Bonnie and Clyde turn around and start chasing them. Yeah. And like, he's so nervous, but you're laughing the whole time. It's like, go faster, Margaret. Margaret, go faster. And it's like, you can just feel it in his voice. He's great. Yeah. Fucking great.
Yeah, he is classic. Gene Wilder's timeless. Yeah. And this is his first movie, so it's worth watching just for that. And then they find out, they kind of buddy up with him. They're hanging out all night. They're getting burgers. And they're like, so what do you do? And he's like, I'm an undertaker. And they kick him out of the car and they leave him in the middle of nowhere because they have this fear that death is chasing them.
Right. One last thing I was going to bring up. The name was Velma, not Margaret. And the woman who played Velma, I've looked this up a couple of times. Like, her name is Evans. How does that happen? Evans.
They don't name him like that anymore.
What the fuck? That's weird.
Well, things start going wrong for the Bonnie and Clyde gang, and the main thing that's going wrong is they start fighting amongst themselves. I'm going to say it, the ladies.
It's fucking Blanche.
It's Bonnie and Blanche don't get along, and there's this crucial moment where they're really fighting, and so they decide to send Blanche and CW to go get some fast food from a local chicken store. And while they're there in the chicken restaurant, a guy sees a gun in CW's hip, and Bonnie and Clyde are like famous gangsters, and everybody knows they're in the area. So he calls the cops and alerts them to what he saw, and they track him back to this motel that they're staying at, and this huge shootout happens, and this is kind of the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
For the gang and for the movie, and one by one, the gang kind of falls apart. Gene Hackman is injured badly. He's mortally wounded. They take him to a field where they try to recuperate, but the police jump them again, and another shootout happens.
And they're surrounded in this field.
Yeah, and this time Blanche is shot in the face, and Clyde is shot in the arm, and Bonnie is shot. The only person who gets away unharmed is CW. A bunch of cops are shot along the way. And also, as dark as this sounds, this is also filled with like a bunch of fun scenes of like car chases,
Yeah.
and stuff that's just like silly, and it's both like a fun romp and like a dark crime movie.
Even when you're watching this scene where there are like thousands, so it appears, rangers in the bushes shooting guns at them, he's driving in a circle trying to not get shot. You're so entertained and like. Yeah. I'm like smiling watching this, like, whoa, and it's like, this should be scary or sad or something, but I'm really entertained.
But then they have to like jump out and run into the creek, and then Bonnie gets shot. And again, this is one of the first movies to use squibs, and it's just, you see the main female character who's very like alluring and attractive, and she just gets shot, and you're like, fuck, that, it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
So this movie kind of walks this fine line.
Yeah.
Blanche gets taken in by the police, and she kind of rats out the rest of the gang, but she gets tricked into doing it by this cop who was photographed.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't realize it's that cop because she's blind.
Because she got shot in the eyes.
Shot in the eyes.
Took a bullet to the head.
Yeah.
And Bonnie and Clyde, they go to CW's house, and they take refuge in his dad's house, and his dad pretends to be homely, but at the same time is so angry that his son has run off with these gangsters, and he's calling the cops to rat them out.
Yeah.
The movie, you want to talk about the movie's ending?
Yeah. It's one of the most famous endings, I think.
I was just going to say, I didn't know anything about the ending of this movie.
You didn't?
Not whatsoever. And that might be one of my favorite endings I've ever seen.
Yeah?
That was
All right.
that was on my list after watching this. Wow.
Damn.
Well, very Sopranos ending.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Influential ending. So Bonnie and Clyde are basically set up by CW's dad by the police, and they fall into a trap. They're ambushed. This is what really happened in real life. There's a real dramatic scene where his dad begs CW, like, don't go with them tomorrow. When they get in their car to come back, don't go with them.
Yeah.
And he won't say why. And CW takes his dad's advice and doesn't go. And they really like, where's CW? Where is he? Where is he? But then the cops come and they have to leave him. And they're like, we'll go back for him in just 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Then they see CW's father pulled over on the side of the road, working on his truck. They pull over to help him. And as they get out of the car, all the cops are there with machine guns. And they just machine gun them in slow motion. I'm talking like you see Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway get blown away.
They're fucking Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
And it's
30
like
seconds of sustained machine gun fire.
non-relenting fucking these corpses up. It's crazy.
That was one of the most violent scenes ever filmed up into that point in film history. And some people loved it, and some people were disgusted by it.
Well, let me just tell you, seeing that, and then, how movies are today, that'll happen. Then you get, then they go to a flashback about how they said they would never part from each other, and then they would add 4 things to denouement the fucking thing. Not this.
Nope.
This. The end. I was like, wow.
Not
oh my
even
God.
like.
Yeah, it's pretty artistic. It goes to just like sad folk music and fades out to credits.
You would think too, it would tell you like Bonnie and Clyde and like kind of like recap what happened in real life for you.
Yeah.
In text or something. But
anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Fucking nothing.
Well, I like it. Before this scene happens, probably the beginning of the climax, the real beginning of the end, is Bonnie writes a poem, and she mails it into the newspaper, and it gets into the newspaper. It's the story of Bonnie and Clyde. It's a rhyming poem that describes their life as criminals. And it basically says stuff like, everybody thinks we're real bad, but we're not that bad.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen to us? We're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die. The end.
Yeah, and that's what really wraps up the movie, which was what I actually thought was so great about it, was they set this is just my opinion, my feeling on movies is, you can do that. You can they die, and then you go to this and you go to that. But I've always been of the mindset, you should already have all that groundwork laid to where you can just fucking blow them all up at the end and go to credits. And this movie did it.
And that's enough said.
Yeah. It's like, hey, everything's been done. You know where it's going. Boom. Bye.
Yeah.
Like you've had that all laid out, and I thought that poem was a really
Bonnie and Clyde are dead, and that's enough said.
They got shot in the
real
head
life,
and everywhere else.
And that's enough said.
That poem was written by Bonnie.
Yeah.
But I guess it only was in the paper after their death. Like it was sent to Bonnie's mom, who gave it to the papers after they were killed.
And the photograph happened in real life too, but again, not until after they died
Yeah.
was that photo published.
Yeah.
So, this movie is not the real story, but it's the
Yeah.
folk story. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the
The
myth.
tall tale.
This is the myth and the legend
Yeah.
that is based on the real people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which let me just say, and everyone has a different feeling on it. When it comes to a movie like this, I don't mind that. To me, as a movie, it's a tall tale. I guess what I'm looking at is like, I've always felt like, if it's a documentary, you should not fill it full of shit and try to do misleading editing or this or that. Should be the real shit. But when it comes to a movie like this, I've always been like, I always watch it with that filter. Like,
Yep.
this is going to be a lot of tall tale shit,
Well,
and
also,
I'll read the real thing.
I get when this
Yeah.
movie came out and the families are pissed off.
Yeah,
But
I
at
get
this
that.
point, these events happened almost 100 years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
so it
yeah.
is
That's
becoming to the
wild.
point
I
of
definitely,
like legend.
yeah,
It was
de-
90
definitely have a
years
different.
ago.
Yeah, it was 90 years ago.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, I mean,
Definitely, yeah. I have a different perspective on that than you would have maybe if at that time. Sure, but
Yeah, it's
but,
interesting
yeah.
because Bonnie and Clyde were bad people in real life, but then you watch this movie and you don't think they're bad people.
Yeah.
So there is a moral conundrum there.
Yeah.
I think that I love movies, and I think it's important if you like movies to have a little bit of an understanding of like media literacy, how
Yeah.
movies work. You can't just take them at face value. You have to understand that like it's a fantasy. It's
Yeah.
inflated to make it more romantic and more entertaining.
Yeah.
So if you can go into it with that mindset, cool. But some
Yeah.
people can't.
Yeah,
Right.
Some
and I
people-
understand. I get it.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
people can't separate that kind of thing. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we have this show, so
I
we
mean,
can help guide the viewer.
to me, you're watching a movie, as Rocco said. Like, if I wanted the real story, I would find the Bonnie and Clyde documentary, which I'm sure exists.
Yeah.
And I could find out exactly what happened. But if you want to see the fun, romanticized version of it, this is it, for you. And
Yeah, but maybe I'm going to play devil's advocate. There could be that 15-year-old out there who is watching classic films from the 60s and thinks being a criminal is cool because they watch Bonnie and Clyde. I think that would be the argument that critics were afraid of. But honestly, I agree with you guys. These are movies. You go into it,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't watch Terminator and think like, yeah, I'm going to take down all the computers in the world because AI.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a movie. You
Yeah.
have to go into saying, like, this is entertainment.
Also, like, how
yeah.
it ends, too. It's like, I don't think someone wants to do that. Like, that's fucked up.
Then again, man, you vastly underestimate the people who don't fucking finish movies, I guess. Because I think I was on the PPS or something the other night and talked about that, where it's like, still see people with the Scarface thing and like,
Yeah.
Scarface, the world is yours. Yeah, you got to finish that
Well,
movie.
it's just
Finish it.
interesting.
You got to
because
watch it all.
Since the beginning of movies, there have been stories about criminals.
Yeah.
And pretty much 99% of the time it ends with the criminal dying or going to jail, but
Yeah.
mostly dying.
Yeah.
And if they don't die or go to jail, they definitely lose every valuable relationship. Like they end hated by
Yeah.
everybody who loved them.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, generation after generation, people see these movies and they go, yeah, that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
They go, that's
true.
the life for me. Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
Fucking, you look at in real life, so Bonnie and Clyde were killed.
Yeah.
And then they put the car in the police like headquarters that was all shot up.
Like in a museum.
Kind of in a
display.
museum, like behind a fence, because they had to put the fence up because people try to take things of the car. People found like chunks of Bonnie's hair. They're trying to like take that. They're trying to like take things as souvenirs.
Yeah.
Then they displayed their dead bodies for like days to prove that they actually got Bonnie and Clyde. They said like 30,000 people came to check it out. Like they wanted to see these dead bodies.
It's like Comic-Con.
Each like I think Clyde had like 55 bullet wounds and Bonnie had 49. Like it was
Oh,
like
please.
they
Come
were
the
on.
guy
so
always gets more.
they were so
the wage
fucked up.
difference, even back
I
then.
cannot
Yeah, that's fucked
imagine.
up.
Also, which I don't know why this bums me out. They weren't buried together like they wanted to be. They were buried in like
That's
different states.
unnecessary.
Why'd they do that?
That's fucking unnecessary.
You know, fuck that.
They paid their debt to society. Oh,
Oh.
what'd they do? They took the bank's money, so for the rest of eternity they can't be together.
Another-
You fucking
Banks get bailed out again.
assholes.
Fun fact about
That's
real
fucked
life:
up.
their families
I'm mad now.
were fucked after this because they were considered aiding and abetting Bonnie and Clyde. So
Oh.
they all like had to do like, dude, there's footage, like news footage of like all of like Bonnie's like uncles and cousins walking into like courthouse like chained by the neck because they're all going to like trials. A lot of them like got sent to jail. Bonnie's mom got sent to jail for 30 days. This crippled old woman was like, they had to like put her in a wheelchair and like sit her in a prison cell for 30 days
You
for helping Bonnie
took
out.
the bank's money. You made the cops look stupid. We're sending your mom to jail.
Yeah, you're sending her
Not
mom.
only are we machine gunning you with 49 bullets,
Yeah.
and we're burying you 3 states away from your lover.
Yeah.
Your mom's going to jail too.
Well, let this be a lesson to everyone. Let this be a lesson to everyone out there, and it's a
They
time.
got her.
Seriously, it's a timeless message. Don't make the cops look stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, there you go.
you know,
That's not
just
worth it.
guys,
You know what? Listen to
respect
Rocco,
your
everyone.
local
They'll
policemen.
get you back.
Come on.
Yeah.
Then some.
Anyway.
Well, it's time for popcorn shakers.
Okay. Well, I picked this movie. Let me get some shakers. I love this movie. I think it's a great fucking movie. Will I give it 5 shakers? Part of me wants to, but it is pretty fucked up that like they changed history so much. But it's a movie. Fuck it. 5 shakers from me. I really like
Wow.
this movie. I really
Damn,
liked
a
it.
5er.
I know, that's rare for me too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence between 4 and 5, but you know what? Just to be discerning, I'm going to give it a 4.
Fair enough.
But it could easily be a 5.
Yeah.
I see. It was a great movie. I am not going to put it on my top list, maybe necessarily, but I could see the birthplace of a lot of the fucking movies that I have loved over the. I saw it all. It was like I was seeing it all begin here, kind of. I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm gonna give it a 4. Solid 4.
That's a pretty good score.
Yeah.
You know, that's according to my math, that would be 13 out of 15 shakers. Is that right?
Yep, you're right.
Oh, I'm so smart. Yep.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Cool.
Next up is a Derek Acosta pick, and we're going to watch
No, sorry, Sean.
the
That's fine.
Jeez.
What?
the bad taste of this movie out
Jeez,
with
man.
a little refresher horror film. That's
Oh,
right. Halloween
ooh.
is right around the corner, so we've got to get our horror fix. We're going to go Italian style in honor
All right.
of my Italian friend Rocco.
Finally.
We're going Dario Argento. Demons.
Oh my God, that sounds scary.
Demons.
Demons. Okay.
We're watching Demons on the next episode of Movie Club. We hope you join us.
Oh, I'm scared too. Shit.
So now I'm going to go listen to Eminem 97 Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh.
Which is a song off of the Marshall Mathers LP.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Okay.
do,
Let's see which one's better.
Yeah, I think the song is better than the movie, honestly.
That's what I've heard.
Okay,
That's
well-
what Ebert said, but I don't know. If
We'll
I
let you
trust
know
him.
next time.
He's gone.
Yeah.